Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into an incredibly tense, almost graphic novel-style debate, echoing all the way from the realm of ancient myth. On one side, we have the laughter-loving sovereign herself, Aphrodite, representing divine mirth. And on the exact opposite side, we have her subversive shadow, representing the really sharp, uncomfortable edges of our hidden vulnerabilities. Together, well, they're arguing over the ultimate path to human growth. So you can pretty much forget everything you thought you knew about gentle, linear self-improvement. We're translating a story of chaotic rescue here. We're looking at how our absolute most embarrassing, uncontrollable moments might actually be the exact things that save us from ourselves.
Okay, let's dive into this. Right here, we hear the voice of the integrated Aphrodite setting this, well, honeyed trap. Imagine her speaking directly to us, saying, "Watch closely, my dark sister, as I turn their heavy, solemn gravity into a farce with nothing but a dimple and a well-placed sigh." You see, she looks at humanity building these massive, rigid walls of stone and logic, desperately trying to cage the wind of our own desires. And to her, our solemn gravity is literally a cosmic joke. She's promising to turn our grandest philosophers into stammering fools with just a flick of her wrist. But, this mirth doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It gets immediately met by the Shadow's incredibly sharp rebuttal. The Shadow fires back, "They think mischief is a superficial game, but we know it is a necessary dismantling. By stripping away their dignity, we strip away their illusions, forcing them to confront the wild, irrational beast beneath their starched robes." I mean, the Shadow brings this piercing edge, right? But even she understands that her dark truth absolutely needs the goddess's laughter. It's that laughter that acts as a bright lantern, illuminating the darkness and making that scary descent into madness feel like a joyous homecoming.
And that brings us to the core concept of this explainer, psychological liberation. Now, in modern psychology, we talk a lot about gradual, clinical self-improvement. But the ancient Greeks, they understood this entirely differently. They called it oistros, which translates to a divine frenzy, or the sting of a gadfly that jolts us right out of our complacency. It's a wholly disruptive spark. It's designed to rescue the human soul from the prison of its own ego through the deliberate subversion of dignity. Basically, this liberation isn't about gentle growth. It's a necessary, chaotic dismantling of our social masks. You literally have to lose your composure to actually be free.
Moving into Act 1, Piercing the Paper Shield. Let's look at the parable of the philosopher's stumble, but let's hear it from the trickster goddess's own perspective. She says, "I watch this solemn stoic walking through the agora, claiming total immunity to Eros. Now, I don't strike him with madness. Nope. I simply blow a single fragrant petal into the path of a passing flower girl. As she trips into his arms and her hair brushes his cheek, my shadow exposes the starved, hollow cavern of his repressed desires. I amplify his frantic heartbeat. He drops his life's work into the mud and follows her like a lost child."
And this brilliantly illustrates the pierced paper shield, connecting perfectly back to the Shadow's argument. The trickster didn't destroy logic, she merely exposed it. Our vaunted logic is utterly powerless against the radiant, laughing reality of raw human nature. It's like our inherent vulnerability is always going to pierce right through those illusions we build to protect ourselves from what we truly, deeply want.
Act 2. Subverting perfection and power.
So, in the parable of the discordant chord, the goddess turns her eye toward our highest arts. She tells us, "I observed a grand festival of Apollo where musicians sought absolute mathematical symmetry. Finding this flawless performance utterly sterile and devoid of life, I subtly untuned a single silver string on the master's lyre just as he reached his crescendo. The note wasn't ugly, it was raw. It was throbbing with an unexpected sensual heat, sparking wild, ecstatic dancing among the solemn crowd." The psychological takeaway here runs so deep. Think about how seasonal decay in nature actually mirrors our own internal creative processes. Just like the vibrant, chaotic decay of autumn is absolutely necessary to prepare the soil for spring's new life, this disruption of sterile perfection is necessary for genuine creative growth. True beauty and authentic life just aren't found in unbroken lines. They're found in the playful, disruptive cracks where life actually breaks through the tyranny of perfection.
Now, in the parable of the king's wardrobe, the goddess targets worldly authority, stepping in directly. I manifested as an exotic weaver, she explains, promising a proud, terrified monarch a fabric of pure desire that only the passionate could see. I left the loom entirely empty, yet so potent is my trickster energy that the king confidently marched completely naked through his capital, convinced he was draped in majesty, while my mocking mirth echoed through the crowds. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the shadow uses nakedness to strip away the ultimate illusion of power. The emperor literally has no clothes. That profound vulnerability and the fragile ego hidden behind the crown are just completely exposed for all to see. It really proves that worldly authority is so easily dismantled by the simple naked truth of our shared human absurdity. Act 3, the comedy of misdirection.
For our final parable, the goddess tackles human manipulation and control. I watched two rival suitors, the trickster laughs. One bought a dark love potion, the other relied on manipulative prayers. I was thoroughly bored by their predictable toxicity. So, right before the grand feast, I swapped their dark magic with ordinary, unwatered wine. Expecting to manipulate an heiress, they instead got drunk and loudly confessed their own ridiculous vanities and embarrassing secrets to the entire court.
See how she turns a potential tragedy of dark magic and manipulation into a roaring, liberating comedy. By forcing us to push our hidden, ugly truths into the light, she converts toxic obsession into joyful self-awareness. Ultimately, forcing humanity to laugh at its own foolishness prevents our stagnant souls from suffocating under the heavy weight of our own dignity.
Which brings us to our final act, the integrated smile. As we reach the climax of this explainer, the goddess speaks directly to us with an integrated smile. She says, I demand a heart that knows how to dance in the ruins of its own expectations. When I trip you on your path or blow your arranged life to the wind, I am not trying to destroy you. I am trying to rescue you from the prison of your own ego. Her tripped paths and disruptions are a literal act of divine rescue. A person who cannot laugh at their own sudden surrenders is already dead to the world.
So the crucial point is that this debate between the laughter and the dark synthesizes into a true path for moving from the dark into the light. The shadow shows you your deep hunger, your flaws, and your terrifying truths. But the sovereign's joyful laughter is what gives you the courage to feed that hunger without shame. Integrating your personal darkness is not something to fear. Laughter is the bright lantern that transforms the terror of the dark into a wild, breathless game, which is exactly what enables genuine, authentic growth.
Let's sum up these archetypal lessons. These mechanisms of psychological liberation are incredibly relevant to our modern struggles. Today, we are so obsessed with untracked productivity and projecting an image of total control. We view that ancient Greek concept of oistros, that sudden chaotic frenzy of life, as a threat to our schedules. But true personal strength actually comes from subverting that fragile modern ego. It comes from dismantling our shields of logic and breaking the tyranny of perfection. When we accept these dark traits and chaotic disruptions and learn to laugh at our embarrassing realities, we finally step into true authenticity.
The universe, these sources remind us, was born from an explosion of pure, unbridled joy. The trickster is just the divine wink in the dark. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with a final thought to reflect upon. Are you ready to wear your embarrassments like a crown of wild roses? Will you stop fighting the jest, surrender to the dance, and finally learn to laugh at your own undoing? Because the moment you do, you might just find yourself walking hand in hand with the gods.